Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Bianco, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about an opportunity that I have for you. And I'm hoping that everybody participates in this, and it's a little bit of a fun competition, too. So, I want to talk to you for just a minute about some of the work that I've been doing. I've had the privilege of being invited to Washington, D.C. a few times over the last few years. And obviously, my work is around the teacher diversity, so I've been invited to different meetings that have been hosted at the Department of Education. So in this picture, you can see part of Miss Palomino there in the corner, and Mr. Hayes, and Gabriela Maldonado from Lincoln High School. And you can see me pictured there also with two students, Tobe, who's from CPA, now a college student at Colorado State University, and Edwin from Lincoln High School. This was a trip that we took last May to Washington, D.C., where students participated in a teacher diversity summit. You can see here that Tobe and Edwin met the current Secretary of Education, Dr. John B. King, and this is something I'm going to be talking to you about now because you have a little homework assignment. Um, so let me explain. Here's some more pictures of us. You can see Tobe was on a panel with the Teacher of the Year, and there's some more pictures of us in front of the Department of Education. This is a picture of Mr. Eric Duncan, and this brings us to the little competition that I'm going to have. So Mr. Duncan works with the Secretary of Education, and he's actually one of his policy advisors. So if you listen carefully, you're going to have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Duncan and hopefully get your voice heard in Washington, D.C. So this is a quote that the Secretary of Education posted a number of months ago, and it says, "I am who I am because a teacher and a school believed it was worth the time and effort to widen my horizons." So I want you to think about that. And what does that mean? And if you had to write a similar quote, what would your quote be? Would it be similar? Would it be different? So here are the rules. You can work in small groups or you can work individually. That's going to be your choice. But what you're going to have to do is, and you're going to have to do this pretty quickly, you need to learn all you can about the role of the Secretary of Education. So what does the Secretary of Education do? How does this person get that job? So learn all you can about the role of the Secretary of Education for the United States. I want you to learn all you can about our current Secretary of Education, Dr. John B. King, Jr. Do a Google search, find out his story, his history, what's his background, how did he get involved in education to begin with? What can you find out about him and what influences the things that he feels strongly about now? And what are his priorities as the Secretary of Education? What's the agenda that he's trying to move forward in our country right now? You also need to find out what he said about the need for a diverse teacher workforce. So you're going to have to do some digging and you're going to have to find a quote. And you're going to have to remember where you found that quote because you're going to have to cite it. And then if you had the opportunity to speak to the secretary, what would you tell him about the need for diverse teachers? So if you could spend a minute or two with the secretary, what are the one or two things that you would really want to make sure that he knows? So here are the rules. Once you've gathered all this information, and I'll write it out on a Word doc so that you'll have it. Once you've gathered all this information, you and your team are going to have to write a 2-page summary of what you learned. What do you know about the secretary? What are his priorities? What's his background? All the bullet points that were in the previous slide. You're going to write these 2 pages, including the quotes, and you're going to submit it to me on Schoology. The first team that submits their work and addresses all of the information that I've asked for is going to have an opportunity to interview Mr. Eric Duncan. I'll arrange it so that you'll have some time with him via Skype or another video conference call, and you'll get to talk about what the secretary's agenda is and the things that are important to him. You'll get to ask Mr. Duncan some questions about the kinds of things that the secretary does on a day-to-day basis, if that's what you want to know. And most importantly, you're going to be able to let Mr. Duncan know what your message is to the secretary. And I promise you, he's going to make sure that the secretary knows. Okay, you ready? I'm going to post this on Schoology, and as soon as you watch this video, you need to get started. It's the first team that submits everything to me, including all the bullet points, so make sure that you've covered everything. First team that gets it into me is going to be able to interview Mr. Duncan. Ready, set, go.